Hello, I'm Joan. I'm a Canadian family physician who also works as a restorative medical educator, facilitator, and coach. I create spaces that rehumanize the work of healthcare. I'm creating this podcast to remind myself, as well as anyone else working in a helping profession, that when you are working and caring for your human patients, you are the other human in the room. Hello there, healthcare humans. Thank you so much for coming back for another episode of The Other Human in the Room. I just decided to do different pausing than I usually do at the start of the podcast today. I'm feeling kind of punchy. I'm driving to work on a Friday morning. I'm hoping that the background noise is not too loud. It typically isn't, but apologies if it is. You're welcome for the soothing extra tones in your ears. And I was really inspired to make this podcast because I have a story in my head that is taking up space in my brain. And as you know, I'm a big fan of creating space. And this story is bouncing around in there. And ironically, it's a story that I have recently been offering a bunch of coaching about and giving sort of advice about different people in my life, friends that I know that are on the internet that got mean comments and saying what should I do about this? And then people in the Creating Space coaching program, a theme that we've been discussing, one of many is what to do about this. And then I get this perfect example in my own life because, I teach and share out of what I know. I don't teach something that I don't believe, and I don't teach something on this podcast that I don't have intimate familiarity with, including ongoing relationship with. So it's not if you ever listen to me and you're like, oh, she must never feel this way anymore. That is not accurate. I shall dispel that myth right away. Whatever it is, people-pleasing, perfectionism, imposter syndrome, feeling like you don't belong, etc., etc. All of those sensations and stories still flow through my body and my brain, though they have less control over my life. Thank goodness. And this one as well, certainly. This one continues to be really a strong theme. And so the theme is fear of other people judging you. And specifically, the fear of them judging you, but also when they actually do judge you. These being completely separate but related phenomena, that my brain certainly, invites me to spend a lot of time thinking about. If I let this program run my life, every single decision I make, every single action I take or don't take would all be filtered through which choice will allow more people to judge me positively than negatively. And the deep, deep fear that lives inside of me is, what if this action means someone has an unfavorable thought about me? That's a huge, a huge program in my brain. And so I noticed it running this morning. And I know I've spoken to this in different ways in the past, but it's coming to me fresh. So I wanted to sort of share almost this real-time example of how it's feeling in my brain and body this morning. And through that sort of share what feels best to me as a strategy, an approach to when your body and your brain are being really loud about someone else judging you, right? And so I'll give the scenario, which is I'm wanting to qualify it as silly or small, but I'm aware those are actually secretly little self-shamey stories. You're oh, it's just so silly, but so I name that I want to qualify it, but I am not qualifying it. It is a story that is not small in my brain right now, and that's why I'm sharing it. So basically in Ontario, the province in which I live and practice, and as you may recall, I am a family physician. Recently, the way we do cervical cancer screening has changed, and it's caused some amount of commotion. because of the change management required, the space in our brains required, the space in our calendars and our workflow required to make this shift. The guideline has some complexity to it, which is never my favorite. And all these little bits and bobs, just anytime anything new rolls out, everyone goes, oh my gosh, this is new now. Oh my gosh, this is new now. And I feel like post 2020 and 2021, maybe we all would have been as reactive before, but I feel like we are a different kind of reactive now, collectively and even individually. Like in some ways, because the rate at which the very different guidelines around how to approach COVID shifted, part of me feels more worn and weathered and experienced, and I can pivot for anything, and that part is great. I really learned from it. But then there's the other part of me that was slightly traumatized by that time and always feeling like the ground was falling out from under me, and that's oh my god, please, no more new things, which is tough because the new things, they will keep coming. And I feel more anger about guidelines that don't make sense, because there were so many times where you're we were doing something different yesterday, and it wasn't that there was always a way it made sense, but especially when things seem to contradict, when things seem to be extra strict for no reason, or extra vague for no reason. Extra vague for no reason is actually the one that came up for me this time, in my opinion. And so basically, a new wrinkle arose around the cervical cancer screening guidelines. There's patients that are starting to call that are over 70 that are getting letters from the government saying that they're due for cervical cancer screening, when historically we stopped, the program for cervical cancer screening stops at age 69. And so then now we're looking back at the guidelines. Wait, what? I went to the webinar. I looked at these new guidelines. Where does it say this? And there's this one table that I was interpreting a certain way, which would mean that these particular people calling would not be required to do additional screening, like pelvic exam screening, invasive screening, on their bodies. But the fact that these letters arrived, and then I wrote in this group chat, and a person replied and said, no, my interpretation is yes, they do still need screening. And first of all, my brain was really bothered by that, and went on a little journey of am I right or are they right, whatever. But that part is not the point of this podcast. I got to a point where I'm okay, this is the salient question, and I would like to gain understanding of this before I understand if I'm going to follow this guideline or not. So far, I don't understand the purpose of calling in these patients. Based even on the guideline itself, I'm reading it differently. And so I posted an additional question this morning saying I hear what you're saying, and the way that I read this, I am not understanding why this recommendation is needed. So if anyone can explain. And it's since then, that's the part that this podcast is about. It's about fear of judgment of others. Since then, my brain has been picturing the people in this group chat who are fellow physicians of various kinds in my region, and picturing them saying wow, she's so, what are my brain saying? She's so disruptive. She's unintelligent. She's, she's asking me to do the work for her. Why doesn't she just look it up herself? What else am I afraid that they are judging me for? Oh, there's this layer of I'm aware that some people in this group chat know that I have a podcast, and so it's wow, Joan, she's all about wellness and niceness, and now she's in this group chat asking a question and being disruptive and being aggressive aggressive with my question. Well, I'm just saying what I'm feeling and being so messy, and I thought that she had it all together based on her podcast, and wow, now she's supposed to be able to be calm and happy all the time, and look at her asking a question and being less calm. Anything else? Because this is okay, I'm live sort of telling you my process, because what I did before this step is I was trying to just shove it down. I was this is fine, this is fine. I was putting on a podcast that was funny to distract me this morning. I was actually feeling eating a snack even though I'm definitely not hungry. Like, I was instead trying to like run away from this agitated feeling I had, which was this fear of imagining them judging me. Part of my brain was still like happily imagining it and being like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Joan, listen to me. They're going to judge you this way. They're going to judge you this way. And then the rest of my brain was want to just like put my fingers in my ears and be like, la, 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 I can't hear you. I'm just going to distract myself with happy things. No, no, no. And what was happening is then the scared part was getting louder because it's, it's like pushing the beach ball under the water. If you've heard that metaphor, what resists persists, it gets louder. And so step one of addressing fear of others judging you is to actually face it. So I was in the grocery store picking up tomato paste, as one does first thing in the morning. And like in the aisle, in my brain, I was just like, okay, just feel the fear. And I was like, let's go, feel it. And then like, as I'm like getting my tomato paste, I'm just like opening my body up to what are you afraid of? And just like letting that in. I'm not recommending you necessarily do this in a grocery store aisle, like especially if you're not very practiced at feeling your feelings. You might feel actually quite overwhelmed, might have a good cry, and maybe you don't want to do that in a grocery store parking lot or grocery store aisle and then parking lot. But in my case, I have been practicing being friends with my feelings for some time. And so it was amazing, like immediately, like all that resistance and yucky feeling, it literally felt like I turned my body towards like the blast of it and went, let's go. They all hate you. Feel it. And just like let myself feel. And then actually that feeling was kind of liberating. I was like, yeah, they all judge me. They're all mad at me. They all think these things. Feel what that would feel like. And like it actually felt okay. It's fine if you try this and it doesn't feel okay, though. I've practiced this many times, and that's why at this point I'm like, I'm familiar. What else could they say, right? So like, I kind of had that attitude this morning. So that's step one, is actually just addressing and not trying to ignore, but facing the fear of other people judging you. And getting intimate with that fear and with that feeling, because everyone is possibly thinking thoughts in their heads about you at some point in their life. And so might as well be open to the fact that that's absolutely happening from time to time. And then the other kind of bigger step is really understanding why our brains and bodies even have this reaction to begin with, and like specifically in what circumstances. So the most helpful way I've learned to think about this is when I'm afraid of someone judging me, it is because a part of me already believes that specific judgment to be true. If someone is judging me for something that I think is absolutely not true and it would be an absurd thing to believe about me, I am not afraid of that. I'm like curious about that. I'm like, oh, that's an odd thing to think. So like if, someone was like, Joan is an alien, I wouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared that someone's going to think I'm an alien, because I 0% believe I'm an alien. In fact, I would then just mostly be concerned for that person and be like, are you okay? You think I'm an alien. Why do you think that? Maybe I get curious about it. Why are you honking? It's a red. Oh, look, someone was just judging behind me. Someone's honking at me. And this is weird. Like, this is like happening in real time. A person behind me just honked because I'm at a red and turning right. But there were people that were going straight through the intersection. And so right now, that person honking at me, I was like, with curiosity, looked, why are they honking? Am I missing something? No, there are people that are going to be driving the exact place that I'm driving. And so now I am just thinking that maybe they misperceived the situation or were wrong about me, but I'm not feeling like, oh my God, I'm a bad person. I'm a bad driver. Because I looked and I'm like, if I followed their honk, I would get into a crash. In this case, my perception is that they were inaccurate in their judgment of me, which is that I should go. Right? So that was like a wild real-time example. My goodness. So you can see. So like, if I am obsessed and like, so this morning, these people in the group chat, what are they thinking of me? The reason I'm worried about it is because part of me believes this about me already and thinks that's a bad thing. So I'm also not worried if like, I don't know, oh no, what if someone thinks I'm funny? Because I think I'm funny. And I enjoy when people think I'm funny. So I'm not like, oh no, what if they think I'm funny? I'm so scared, right? So this is like specifically beliefs I have, either hidden deep down inside of me or very much at the surface, that I don't like about myself, right? So, like things I'm insecure about, you can say. So, things I'm like, I'm not pretty enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not whatever enough, right? Like, and the way I can know what I am insecure about, the way I can know what beliefs I have that hurt me, that feel bad inside of me, is actually by paying attention to what I'm scared other people will judge me for. So it's actually really fascinating and helpful information if I'm willing to face the fear of other people judging me. I can learn a lot about myself, and in particular learn about the parts of myself where I haven't, fully accepted and loved myself, which that's fine. Like, we're always forever on a journey of self-love and self-acceptance. There's not like an end point. And I can know like areas that I can treat myself with more tenderness, that I can like maybe receive coaching about it or do work about it if I want to, or at least like know that is a part of me and like practice accepting, right? So in this case, I already told you. I just like shared with you some insecurities that apparently I do have still, and that's fine. And so it's useful, like in my opinion, and the way that it works well for me is actually to list out, either say them out loud or like write them down, all the different things. Like, okay, what do you think? What do you think they're thinking about you? What are you afraid they're thinking about you? And like write them all out in a list. And then you look at that list and you ask yourself, which of these actually just are true, right? Like, and true in a way that I can believe even in a neutral way. So an older example of this was like coaching that I received a long time ago, which was like after I got a tattoo, I was noticing my brain was taking up a lot of space, worrying what my parents thought about the fact that I had a tattoo. Because I had a very specific memory of my dad when I was a teenager saying, oh, Joni, if you ever got a tattoo, it would just break my heart. I think he said, if you ever got a tattoo or got a piercing, it would just break my heart. And ever since then, I never asked him to update if he has a different opinion now, but I just had that living inside of me. So I get this tattoo and I'm talking with this coach being like, I'm so afraid. I can't stop thinking about what they're going to think of me, about me. I'm so preoccupied by it. And so she asked me the same question, like, what are you afraid specifically that they'll think about you? And I was like, well, I'm like afraid they're going to be like, oh, Joan, she's not a Christian anymore, and she's not following our values anymore, and she's not our like good little girl anymore. And then the coach asked me like, well, are you a Christian anymore? And I was like, no. And she's like, do you hold the same values as your parents? And I was like, no, I mostly don't. Like, there's specific values that we very much differ on, and that I feel good about, in the sense that like, I don't want to change. I specifically changed my values away from their values to be more affirming to what felt right for me. And she asked like, and do you still feel like a good little girl? Do you want to be their good little girl? And like, I really don't, because a good little girl would mean I'm back in that box again. And so I was like, oh, right, no. And so the coach said like, so they would just be thinking things about you that you actually agree with that are true according to you. So I'm curious why you're afraid of that, because it would just be an accurate thing they're thinking. And it was like a really liberating moment of just like saying, right, like the worst thing that they could think about me are things that I also believe to be true. And then if there were other things like, now they think I'm going to hell, and they've never said this. I'm just saying in my head, I'm like, oh, now they think I'm going to hell. Well, I don't believe that. Because I don't believe in hell. But like, so I would be sad for them if they're thinking that and feeling sad, because that's hard to think. And that, that's that sort of heartbreaking thing of like, oh, it's so hard when you have someone feeling sad and they think it's about you. But I wouldn't be changing in any way to try and make them less sad, because these are things that really matter to me. These are things that are important to me, right? So like, that's an old example. of how, simply facing directly and being willing to listen to what that fear was about helped me to then recognize and accept the part of myself that I'm afraid that someone else is judging. And, did it mean that I had no feelings of nerves or self-awareness when they did see the tattoo or whatever? No, because this is like a conditioned thing. It takes time. But every time that fear would arise and be like, oh no, what do they think? Be like, they're thinking things, they're seeing you. And, I love me and I can practice loving me in their presence, even if they have ideas in their heads that may make them struggle to love this part of me, right? So back to this group chat example. Gosh, I already kind of forget. So that is the benefit of writing it down. But I'm driving, so I can't. What did I say? Oh, one of them for sure, a strong one, was disruptive. She's being disruptive. And that's a very interesting word, because I would say at this point in my life, part of my intention in what I create to put out in the world, like this podcast certainly, is to be disruptive. And I think there's two ways that you can kind of think of the word disruptive, right? There's disruptive, like you're in a library and someone comes through yelling and screaming and ripping up the books. And I would say that's like destructive, really, and a bit threatening, and like doing it to cause harm and doing it for no reason. And then there's like the disruptive of like, hey, there's a process here. Like, when cancer is growing, you wish to disrupt the growth process of cancer. So chemo is disruptive, and that's a good thing. You know what I mean? So it's like disrupting something that you think is causing harm. That's what my intention is, not just with this podcast, but also, like I say, like the things I talk about on this podcast, I am always practicing to embody in my life, because that's the way I can sort of live with most integrity, I could say, not in a moral way, but in a way that actually feels good to my body. And by being the embodiment of what I perceive to be a more human way of doing this healthcare thing, I am being disruptive. And so I could sit with myself and sort of check. So it's like, so when I ask this question, like, do I feel like I maybe violated what my personal collegiality code would be? And like looking at the message, I didn't call anyone any names. I'm literally just asking a question, which, by the way, this isn't yelling in a library. This is actually asking a question in a group chat where literally that is what happens all the time in this group chat, is people saying, hey, I have this case. Can someone give me perspective on it? Or does anyone know where to find a plastic surgeon or whatever? Like, the point of this group is to ask questions. So first of all, am I even being disruptive? Not in the sense that I'm sort of violating the group norms. So that part would be inaccurate if someone perceived me that way, where I'm like, I am actually doing the thing that this group is for. And in the way that I'm asking a question and I'm questioning a guideline, in my opinion, and according to my values, asking a question to seek understanding when I don't understand and connect is like a core guiding principle of how I want to live my life. And I really do. I don't want to simply say, this is dumb because it's hard and stupid. And I'm saying, wait. I just simply don't understand the reasoning behind this. And before I can enact and embody this guideline, I do have to understand the reasoning behind this, because it's not adding up to me. So everyone in this group can be like, no, we don't want to spend the time answering your question. And that would be fair. But it is not disruptive to simply ask the question in a group that is about asking questions. And then I can get even more curious, like, oh, Joan, why did you even think that this would be disruptive? And I can think, where did you learn the story that simply asking questions means you're being disruptive? And hello, many such cases through even pre-medical training, just regular education. Certainly within medical education, certain rotations where, though I'm there as a learner, I was shut down or shamed if I asked too many questions or I asked dumb questions or what according to them, right? So I actually totally understand why my body and my brain have this fear, but it's not a belief system I want to perpetuate for myself. And so in that case, I would say, like, so first I looked at my own actions and I did not find them to be disruptive. And so then I'd be like, okay, so the sort of true part of me does not actually believe that I was disruptive. That's good to know. So that means the part of me that is afraid and believes that I'm disruptive is a part that's socialized to believe this inhuman story that simply asking questions means you're being disruptive. And so though I will love on that part of myself and talk to that part of myself and say, like, hey, like, remember where we learned that and that was hard and that really hurt us. We don't have to believe that anymore because we're grown-ups now. And questioning is okay. It is okay to question, right? And then that can be the way forward, right? So therefore, if someone actually, like, say someone, I don't know, in this group chat's like, stop asking questions, you're being disruptive. I could look at that person and be like, oh, they have the same inhuman story living in them that this part of me has living in me. And actually that would make sense. We're all doctors here. We all got trained in this shitty system full of inhuman stories, including like asking questions is disruptive. So I don't even have to. I can be annoyed or mad or whatever feeling I have about them, sure. But also I can still understand and connect with why they believe that, because I recognize that story, this like inhuman story, demon living in both of us. That's the other way I've found helpful to deal with when people actually do enact and say out stories that are inhuman, is like really thinking them as little demons that are possessing them. So just like, throw back to my religious upbringing. And same with when I'm realizing I'm believing them too. I'm like, ugh, just got that little, shame demon living in me. You silly little thing. And then just like gives it less power. I don't know. So those are some free tips for that one. Okay. So that was the disruptive one. Oh gosh, what were the other ones now? Even just talking this all out, I have less of this. That's always what happens. That's why I'm like obsessed with coaching. That's why I enjoy coaching other people. Whether it's the Voxer coaching where people are like talking it out like this in the car and I'm talking back, or whether it's in the groups or whatever. I just love holding space for people to just like let out these bubbles of shame demon stories that are so space taking that really can like rob us of our joy. I just love doing that kind of thing because I know how much it helps me to do it too. So thanks for listening to my self-coaching this morning. And I hope if you find it helpful for you, because that's the other thing. I love listening to other people's coaching because I then see and relate to those same patterns living in myself. Okay. So at this point, what else? There was like the story of like, she's unintelligent. Well, I mean, that one's definitely going to be a shame demon. Cause like, what do we mean by intelligence? Like, that's just a whole sham. The notion that if you don't know something, that means you're unintelligent. Like, that's just factually wrong, right? Like, what is having a lack of knowledge of a single fact have anything to do with someone's overall intelligence? And just like the whole warped historical context of what we count as intelligence and not, and all that stuff. So that one I can be like, that's definitely an old shame demon inhuman story that I don't believe, I don't even remember the other two. That's good. I mean, they're just like not, the thing about like, she has a podcast. Yes. This is a good one because it kind of reaffirms the tattoo story, right? So I say someone's like, wow, Joan's like kind of a mess. Like she's showing that she doesn't know something and she's like asking more questions and she's not just like letting it go. And, she's harping along on it or whatever. They perceive me as messy. They perceive me as emotional. They perceive me as whatever way they're perceiving me. And that she's being so messy and like not this like perfect little person that has a podcast and helps other people. I mean, what a relief. And also, I would wonder if that person listens to my podcast. Because, I mean, the purpose of the podcast is not like, hello, everyone, I'm so perfect. Be like me. There are other podcasts and, marketing things that are like that. But If you've ever perceived that that's my message, then I consider that a failure from my part, because the whole point is to be like, we're all a mess. We're all human. So like if someone thought that about me, I would be glad to disabuse them of that false story that like because, and certainly continue to disabuse. Is that the right word? You know what I'm saying? Like to let go of the story that I can get in my head of like, I can't be messy anymore because now I'm a person that people know that's helping other people. And like, I want to let go of that story 50 billion times, because literally the message that is the core of what I do in the sort of public sphere is to say, we are all messy humans. We are all figuring it out. The more human we are and the less we pretend that perfection's even a concept that is possible, much less worth pursuing, that is the point, right? So I would be delighted, honestly, if someone learned a little more about me and hopefully through that process saw an example for themselves of how you can be messy, you can ask questions, you can be disruptive, and, you know, not die, basically. And perhaps they would feel brave enough to do the same in a situation that they would want to do it in, right? So that would be a case where it's like, well, what if they believe that? And it's like, oh, that's good because it's helping them to actually, you know, it is true that I am messy because I am a human being, and I try and be my full messy self as much as I can in every space that I enter, you know, within my capacity for the day. So that would be actually okay if they believed it. So like the way we feel better about these fears of people judging us is by facing them directly and realizing we will not die to do so. Looking and listing out what specifically we're afraid that they will believe about us. And then going down that list and saying, well, are these true in a way like that, you know, your core, true, authentic self believes them to be true? They're like, oh no, what if they think I'm 39 years old? I am 39 years old. What are we saying? You know what I mean? Then you just put them in the like, oh, so why would I be afraid of something that's actually just true? And then everything else, it's like, what if they believe that I'm a bad person because I'm not perfect? It's like, well, do I want to believe that anymore? Or is that actually a story that I hope that collectively we can walk away from believing? So I can be sad for them if they also have that belief in them that I have in me. But the way forward is not to succumb to the fear of that and try and be perfect for them. The way forward is to fully, more and more, as much as I can, do the work to accept that I am wonderful despite never being perfect, and like loving myself fiercely for myself and for others, right? Oh my gosh, did I just run over a robin? No, I didn't. Yay. Gosh, this drive has had more distractions than most. There was a little robin in the road, guys, and then it didn't seem to fly away in time. And I tried to put my like wheels on either side, but in any case, I saw it flew away, so it's okay. Thank goodness. All right, well, with that, I think I'm going to sign off because I think that's the end of what I'm saying. It is okay if you're afraid of other people judging you. That means you're a human. It is okay to face that fear and to ask yourself, what specifically am I afraid that they think of me? Because there's a lot of really helpful information in there. And if you ever want like a thought partner as you go through that, I have various ways you can work with me. You can reach out to me and we can talk about which ways work for you. And, you know, perhaps in the future, you can be on a drive telling me about what fears you have of other people judging you, and I can offer some healing, helpful human support back to you. In any case, I hope that was helpful to hear. And, I hope you all are doing okay out there. I know life always has lots of complications. The news is very noisy these days. And just hope that you're finding moments of healing and connection through it all. All right. Bye-bye. I would love to take this work deeper with you. Visit joanchanmd.com today and discover my growing menu of options for restorative medical education to suit your learning needs. I offer one-on-one coaching, customized workshops,
and self-study courses that allow you to connect not only with my work on a deeper level, but also with other healthcare humans just like you. So if you want to start humanizing your work in healthcare to a deeper level and do it in community with others, please visit joanchanmd.com and find those options and what fits you and your life today.